Hi, I'm Crystal Harris, and this is the Axial Skeleton Lab. I have the assignment right here. And first I'm going to point out the cranial bones. The front is the frontal bone. The side are the two parietal bones. The back is the occipital bone. And within the occipital bone is the occipital protuberance, which helps to stabilize the head. On the side is the temporal bone. The temporal mandibular joint is where the mandible and temporal bone kind of meet, and you can look at mandible. Mastoid process is right here. The styloid process is kind of in this corner, little pointy bone. The external acoustic meatus is in this corner. And the squamous part is in the middle of the temporal bone. Within the skull is the petrous part on the other inside, and that houses the external auditory meatus and the inner and middle ear. The sphenoid bone is within the skull. It's the bat-shaped bone inside, and it holds the superior orbital fissure. Passes through there is the cranial nerves 3 through 6. Inside also the sphenoid is the optic canal, and what passes through that is cranial nerve 2 and the ophthalmic artery. The sella turcica sits in the sphenoid also, and that holds the frontal lobes of the brain. The ethmoid is also inside, and it holds the crista galli, and that has it attaches the meninges to the out part that covers the brain. And the cribriform plate, bundles of axons pass through the cribriform plate. Sutures, front suture is in between the frontal bone and the two parietal bones. The sagittal suture is in between the two parietal bones. The laboid suture is in between the parietal bones and the occipital bone. And the squamous suture is in between the temporal and parietal bones. Facial bones, maxilla, in here. The alveolar process is right above the teeth. The zygomatic is the cheekbone right here. And the ethmoid is also, you can see within the occipital. And the vomer is kind of inside the nasal cavity, and it holds the vomer along with the perpendicular plate of the ethmoid, make the nasal septum. The inferior nasal concha is also inside the nose, and that it forms the walls of the nasal cavity. The mandible, you have the body of the mandible, the angle, ramus, it's right underneath. The mandibular condyle is this top portion of the mandible. The mandible notch is right there, the loop. And then the coronoid process is the next little top part of the mandible. The vertebral column holds 26 bones. The cervical vertebrae has 7. That's the cervical. And the first bone is the atlas. and that helps to be able to make up that movement, the up and down movement of the head. And what's unique about the transverse process of the cervical vertebrae is that it holds the arteries pass through the foramens of the transverse in the cervical columns. So only in the cervical. The thoracic vertebrae, there are 12 thoracic vertebrae. The spinous process is the pointy part. The transverse is the midsection. And the intervertebral foramen, also there. And what passes through there is the spinal nerves. So the spinal nerves leaving the spinal cord and then entering the trunk of the body, the shoulders, and legs. The body of the the thoracic cord, and position of the vertebral discs is in between. Yes, you can't really see it on the model, but it's in between. The lumbar vertebrae, there are five of the lumbar vertebrae. The sacrum, sacrum, and the coccyx is a little tail at the bottom. And 5 bones are used to form the sacrum. The sternum is right here in between the ribs. The jugular notch is this indentation right at the top. The manubrium is this flat portion right here. The body is right here. And the xiphoid process is the very distal part of the sternum. The ribs, the true ribs are the top from here down. And then the false ribs are from here down. Ones that aren't connected to the sternum. And the floating ribs are, let's see if you can see them, right here. They aren't connected to anything. They're just short and floating. The head of the rib is towards the back. And the neck is thin part side. And the tubercular is towards the front. And the ribs connect with the vertebrae through cartilage in the back. And that's it. Thank you.